I'll now recognize myself for a quick round of questioning. Mr. Lord, from your experience, you gave us nearly $3 billion of seizures, 23 million seizures, some of which were in the de minimis, but most, I assume, were in larger shipments. Is that correct?
No, sir. Actually, the 90% of our intellectual property rights seizures did occur in the de minimis environment.
So the de minimis environment, the $800, or at least alleged to be $800 in value, because if they're true Louis Vuittons, they would be more than that for just one. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question, sir. I'm not 100% familiar with the going price for a Louis Vuitton bag. My wife might be better at that, but yes, if the bag as a genuine article is in fact valued at more than $800, it would not be eligible for.
So when these come in at $800, sometimes they actually are more than $800 selling price, but that's what they claim. And the reality is this is a backdoor and abusive system that particularly China has figured out and is gaming to the tune of 1 billion parcels a year.
Well, Chairman, I would just start by saying that, in the environment we see today, the average declared value of a shipment is $50. The vast majority of shipments are declared well under $100. So while we see shipments that are declared higher dollar value, and there certainly are instances of legitimate shipments being well valued over 800, but being declared under 800, the vast majority of what we see from a value perspective is in fact much, much less than $800.
So in order to fix this, we have to deal not at going from 800 to 400 or 200. We have to deal with the fact that a $50 or $100 declared value is in fact very, very often, and I'll use that fake Louis Vuitton as an example, but it could be a fake Rolex, it could be any number, it could be, as the ranking member said, counterfeit cosmetics that literally can burn your face. It could be any of that.
That's correct.
So but it is clearly a backdoor, something that you do not have the authority to change, only Congress does. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're looking at other ways, sir, to better manage that risk environment. It is, at close to 4 million small packages a day. It is an area of concern for us. We're looking at making changes to our regulatory environment, as well as making investments in key infrastructure and technology to help us better manage that.
Let me ask one quick question. It may tax some of the expertise, but it's a potential solution. As somebody who shipped to and from around the world for years, and sometimes using Speed Post and other systems that offer that de minimis opportunity, if you were given the authority not only to reduce the amount, but also to create two categories: known shipper, meaning the shipper of de minimis who has been cleared, who has that responsibility because they do ship, for example, to Amazon regularly or whatever, and then concentrate on those who are not, if you will, a trusted shipper. Would that help in your authority if Congress gave you that specific opportunity?
Well, thank you, Congressman. I would start by just saying, given the very real economic benefits of the de minimis exception, I'm not sure as a law enforcement agency we're best placed to make the decision as to what the dollar value should or should not be in that environment. Regarding the known shipper idea, that is an idea that we are looking at internally. The challenge in the environment, without spending too much time on it, sir, is it's very low barriers to enter as an overseas shipper, very low incentive to learn our laws and our customs regulations and our requirements, and the cost of being caught is too low to deter bad behavior. So what that means is the minute you figure out somebody might be trusted or somebody might be a violative shipper, they may disappear tomorrow and reconstitute as a completely different entity. And since this is all overseas, it does
I appreciate that. And Mr. Ball, I apologize for not having time to ask all of your questions, but Mr. Goldfoot, my round of questioning and any additional time I have will really concentrate on why are there so few prosecutions in this area? Are they incredibly difficult? And I'll just give you a quick example, hopefully a quick answer. I was a shipper. I was an importer. My products came from Hong Kong and Taiwan, almost exclusively from Taiwan. Fake Viper security systems came in from South Korea. They were discovered inside what was a purported to be garment. They had no business being in to begin with. I was able to get the seizure of it. I was able to get Customs and Border to eventually destroy them. I was even able to get one sample so I could verify that not only was it not mine, it hadn't been transshipped, but the Korean manufacturer, who he was, and so on. We knew who the Korean manufacturer was. We turned that over. Of course, they knew where the product was going. There was no prosecution. So I ask you today, because this is an old one, but it obviously is still happening, why is it you do not routinely send the FBI or other agencies to the recipient of large counterfeit shipments and follow up with prosecution more often than the records indicate?
Thank you for the question. So I think your question also hints at some of the answer, which is to say that these cases can be quite complex. And while it is one thing to detect at the border that goods are counterfeit, seize them, and dispose of them appropriately, identifying a defendant with whom we can charge with counterfeiting with proof beyond a reasonable doubt, getting that defendant into court, particularly if they're in Korea or some other foreign jurisdiction, requires considerable resources.
My question was actually as to the recipient, if you don't mind. We'll focus on that.
As to the recipient specifically.
The buyer.
Thank you, sir, for the clarification. Here again, there can be some difficulty in identifying that all the necessary elements of the case, such as that the recipient understood what they were bringing in. But let me speak more broadly of how we're spending our resources. We are, given the resources we are prioritizing cases in trademark and counterfeiting that affect health and safety issues. For example, a case I like to think of, we did, I think about 2 years ago. It was two individuals from Ukraine, Maxim Yendov and Volodymyr Nikolayenko. Both ran a company called Healthy Nation. This company was importing counterfeit cancer medicine into the United States. These were pills that were marked as though they were legitimate cancer medicine, but they had inactive ingredients. They did nothing. And unsuspecting Americans were receiving this counterfeit medication, taking it, hoping to treat their cancer, and there were disastrous results. We focus on cases like that. We focus on a case like we sentenced last week, Mr. Oksoy, who was selling counterfeit Cisco routers. These routers were being sold to hospitals, to government installations, and they were counterfeit. They didn't work, or they didn't work longer than a few days. There were patchy things that the actual company would never sell. You can imagine the threat to health and public safety that occurs from those. So I think you and I agree. I would like to see more counterfeit prosecutions as well. I think probably anyone who works in law enforcement, if you ask him or her, are you satisfied with the amount of cases you're doing, whether it's IP or some other field, will say no. But given the resources we have, we're looking to create the maximum benefit for the American people.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me say straight out that